She didn't limp off with a smile or a wave. She disappeared into a tunnel that felt like a verdict, and all the careful words that came after, day to day, progressing, hope, now read like the quiet preface to a decision nobody wanted to say out loud. We use custom visuals to tell this story clearly. Original sources? They're all linked below. Before we dig in, answer this in the comments. When teams say long-term health first, do you feel informed or managed? It started with a single minute that changed a season. The game was in hand. The clock was almost empty. Caitlin Clark drove, planted, and the right groin seized like a locked door. She didn't bargain with it. She didn't try the test step that athletes do when they want to bargain with pain. She reached, she grimaced, and the Fever finished the night without their engine. That was July 15th. Everything since has been a slow, public negotiation between optimism and reality. Reports of 5-on-0 work, running clean, shooting clean, arrived like postcards from a place just short of contact. Clips looked good because she looked good. An empty court is kind. But 5-on-0 is a mirage. It can't bump you, can't crowd your landing, can't sneak an elbow into your rib when you're leaning for a pass. And somewhere between moving well and cleared, a wall stayed where it stood. 2 days ago, you could still feel the franchise wanting the door open, if only a crack. Then the announcement dropped. Clark told the truth plainly. She would not return this season. The language was simple, almost spare. Disappointed wasn't a strong enough word. She'd tried, every day, with the singular goal of getting back. It wasn't enough this time. The rest of the league felt the thud. ESPN.com Flirtast. Nist. ESPN.com. Duo. What happened in the middle is what people will argue about for months. It wasn't just the groin. There was the earlier left quad trouble in camp, and in late May. The left groin in June, and the groin on the right side in mid-July. Then the ankle, a bone bruise on the left, picked up during rehab work in early August, slid into the timeline like a plot twist you only catch on the second watch. Some fans said the new detail proved their suspicion. The story kept shifting because the truth kept getting tucked behind glass. Others said it proved something simpler. Recovery is not linear, and athletes collect secondary problems when they're pushing to get back. Both can be true. The uncomfortable part is that fans only learned about the ankle later, and when timelines arrive out of order, trust leaks. You don't need a conspiracy for that. You just need poor sequencing. ESPN's tracker laid it out in one place. The quad, the groins, the ankle, the nothing definitive, like a calendar full of eraser marks. It was an honest mess, which is often what real recovery looks like. ESPN.com, CBSSports.com. And yet, the Fever kept a word on the table that does a lot of work for very little ink. Hope. Coaches talked about the long game. Executives talked about timelines without naming them. Stephanie White, back in Indiana this season, answered calm and stayed on message. No full contact, mostly individual, working hard, long-term health. In a vacuum, that's appropriate caution. In public, with the star who built your traveling fan base and moved your road ticket sales, that reads like a riddle. There's a thin line between not over-promising and under-explaining, and the franchise wobbled on it. When you pair no contact with we're hopeful, the words grind against each other. Fans hear the squeal more than they hear the nuance. And when the season's sand is almost out of the hourglass, nuance doesn't sell. Certainty does. The Fever finally gave it. No return. Eyes on 226. And the room went heavy, quiet, relieved, furious, all at once. Amber Cox's statement hit the right notes. Not enough time to bring her back safely. Long-term health first. See you at full strength next year. It was clean. It was also late. https wwsmv.com feverwnba.com /. Here's the hard truth that explains almost all of the noise. Modern fans don't just watch, they audit. When you say progressing, they want to know progressing toward what? When you say hopeful, they want the date of the next decision point. When a new injury surfaces weeks after it happened, they don't need a villain to feel misled. That's the cost of opaque language in a transparent era. It's also fixable if teams invite people into the process without handing out scouting reports. What does that look like? A cadence you can set your watch by. Next check-in Friday. Contact status, no. Stress test, scheduled. No vibes, milestones. Fans handle bad news better than elastic news. Every day of this saga proved it, but zoom out past the pressers and the posts. On the floor, the Fever changed shape. Without Clark's gravity, her step and rise threes, her standstill lasers to the corner, the offense lost instant spacing. Drives got wider, but less frequent. The micro-advantages that made them sleek in early stretches turned into heavy leg possessions where creation fell on Kelsey Mitchell's shoulders. She answered with explosions because that's what she does. Aaliyah Boston took more force than oxygen and still found ways to pry space in the lane. Lexi Hull did the glue work that never trends. Second efforts on long rebounds, timely touch passes, emergency switches that saved a scramble from breaking. You can win nights like that. The Fever did, but the ceiling drops when your circulatory system is missing. Nobody inside that locker room would call it an excuse. It's just the geometry. Without the star, margins shrink. The grind grows teeth. New York Post. There was also the ratings conversation humming underneath like a generator. When numbers are easy to find, detractors stop insisting you're hiding them. When they're hard to find, suspicion becomes the oxygen for every theory. Clark is the most visible player in the league. Of course, her absence dents attention. Of course, road crowds change. Of course, broadcasters flinch. That isn't a scandal. It's leverage. The kind that every sports business quietly lives by. The job is not to pretend it doesn't exist. It's to tell the truth and build around it. When you can't, the word hope starts collecting meanings it never asked for. Let's talk about Stephanie White because context matters. Indiana brought her back ahead of this season, a full-circle hire that signaled seriousness about standards and structure. She lived the franchise's highs and exits, knows the market, knows the weight of a megastar, and knows that a coach can do everything right in a week and still get grilled because the answer isn't the one people want. You saw that tightrope in every update. Say too much, and you set a timeline that medicine can't honor. Say too little, and you sound evasive. She tried to stay on the narrow bridge in between. People read it as spin because they were starving for a date. If you wanted a villain, she was too measured to provide one. If you wanted a leader, she was steady. Sometimes that's the grown-up answer that earns booze. It also wins you a hallway when the roster listens. fever.wnba.com, espn.com, Cheshedi. Now take a breath and put the temperature down a few degrees. Athletes don't heal on the internet's clock. They heal in rooms that smell like tape and eucalyptus and stubbornness. A bone bruise doesn't ask your permission. A groin doesn't RSVP to a playoff chase. You can run and feel fine, and then find out the tissue hates contact at game speed. You can pass every drill except the one that you can't simulate. Being hit by a person who wants what you want. That's when teams have to be the bad guy and say no, even if you're the yes. That decision often lands inside a sentence about long-term health, and the public rolls its eyes because it's heard it 1,000 times. But the sentence is still the truth. Clark's career is bigger than September. Indiana's is too. Halfway mark. If you're finding this helpful, clean facts, no fluff, and the human side that gets lost in the noise, tap subscribe and turn on alerts. It tells the algorithm to show this to more people who want nuance over knee-jerk. Let's walk the timeline again, cleanly, because the internet loves to tangle it. Training camp, left quad tightness. May 24, left quad strain. June 12, left groin injury. July 15th at right groin, the one that stopped the season. Early August, a left ankle bone bruise during rehab. August to September. Individual work, 5-on-0. Travel with the team. No full contact. September 4th, 5. The decision, delivered by Clark first, affirmed by the team next. No return in 2025. Eyes on 20X, there's your map. There's nothing romantic about it. But it's honest, and it's the only way to move the conversation forward. ESPN.com, and fever.WNBA.com. The reaction told another story about this sport. LeBron James posted encouragement. Opposing fan bases said we'll miss the fireworks and we'll see you again. Fever fans split into two camps, the ones who felt lied to and the ones who said this is what protecting a franchise player looks like. Both loved the team. Both felt something rich in their chest when she said the year was over. If you only live online, you'd think the room is fire and gasoline. Inside Indiana, it's a lot simpler. Be sad tonight. Be ready tomorrow. The playoffs didn't cancel themselves just because the news was bad. And if the bracket opens, it will be because the Fever made defense their broth and cut their turnovers to the bone. That, more than any press conference, is what defines a season from the inside. New York Post. Now to the question everybody kept circling. Did the Fever know sooner? Rumors suggest they had a pretty good sense that the window was closing as the trip out west loomed, and that the internal meeting mentioned in the media was the formal finalization, not the beginning. Could be true. Could also be exactly what it was. A decision point put on the calendar to match medical milestones and game count. Without a stamped timeline from the doctor that fans can read, speculation blooms like weeds. That's why a league-wide standard would help more than 1,000 podcasts. Weekly report. Status definitions everyone shares. Contact clearance listed plainly. Next update date printed like a train schedule. The NFL's injury report exists for gamblers. The W could build one for trust. What about all the clips of Clark smiling on the sideline, juggling a soccer ball, dapping up kids, traveling with the team, running crisp fives alone? Those created a soft conflict. The athlete in front of you looked ready. The paperwork behind the curtain said not yet. Fans believed their eyes because that's how humans work. But you can be a day away in a straight line and still a month away on the curve. The systems that bind your movement don't care if you look fine walking to your seat. They care if the tissue can handle torque under duress. Almost is the cruelest word in sports. And still, this part matters more than all the noise. Clark handled it like a pro twice her age. She took the swing every day in a room where nobody cheers. She spoke when it was time to speak, didn't turn her frustration into theater, and thanked the people who kept showing up even when they couldn't get what they came for. If you're looking for the sneaky win, it's that. The hardest lesson in the early years of a star's career isn't how to hit step-back threes in traffic. It's how to hold the line under a microscope and refuse to make your private pain into public content. She did that, and she still managed to make fans feel seen when it was time to say the thing no one wanted. Okay, so what now? From a pure basketball standpoint, Indiana has to win ugly and live with it. No turnover gifts. Split-second decisions to drive only if the help is late. Otherwise, swing and cut. Boston's touches early to test whistles. Mitchell's green light but filtered. One quick move, one tough three. Then something easier. Hull's timing on back cuts when the nail defender watches the ball. The bench has to win a pocket every night. 2 possessions here, 3 there. That's how you steal time against teams that want to push you into late clock prayers. If you look for beauty, you'll miss the point. The goal is to stretch games into the last 4 minutes, with the score wearing work clothes. What now off the court? A reset in how information moves. The Fever and the league have to accept that "we're hopeful" is a tiered statement. Hope without a timetable breeds second-guessing. Hope with a timetable builds understanding, even if the answer is no. So when the next star faces the next imperfect recovery, bring fans into the cadence. Tuesday, re-eval. Thursday, decision. Status posted no later than 5 p.m. You don't need to share scan results. Share dates. People can handle reality at 5 p.m. better than rumors at 11 p.m. And for the love of everybody's mentions, adopt the same language across teams. A bone bruise can sound like a ding to casuals. Define it. Say it's painful and stubborn and that it hates impact. Take the mystery out of the words. Mystery is the kindling that burns your comments section to the ground. I also want to say the quiet part that players in business offices know. Stars are the tide. They lift your ticket office, your road gates, your affiliate sales, your highlight packages, your random Tuesday streams. That's not an indictment, it's math. The counter isn't to insist the boat floats the same without the tide. It doesn't. The counter is to build a league that doesn't fall apart when one star sits and one story goes quiet. That means distributing access, telling stories deeper than box scores, and putting your broadcast muscle behind teams that aren't the headline that day. Some of that happened this year. More has to. Back to the decision itself. Summer injuries are cruel because they steal not just games, but momentum. Clark's sophomore arc had real shape. The reads got faster, the risk-reward got smarter, the turnovers became a teacher instead of a habit, and the defense started to hum when everyone bought into early tags and late hand-ups. You saw it in pockets. Mini runs where the Fever looked like the team nobody wanted in a series. It didn't hold long enough. That happens in year 2. The job now is to bank the growth and take the medicine. Rehab hard. Strengthen the chain, not just the link. Come back with the same audacity and a deeper patience. Those two together are the recipe that makes late career headliners look inevitable. What about the anger? It's real. It's not a moral failing to be mad that you bought tickets for a return that never came. It's not a weakness to feel like the updates played keep away with your heart. Use it if you have to, then set it down. The people in that building will still show up and punch a clock that has no room for self-pity. The most useful thing you can do, if you love this team, is to be loud for the ones who are playing and demanding of the ones who are talking. Cheer hard. Ask for calendars. That's the version of fanhood that pushes a franchise forward. 2 more threads worth pulling. First, the social media economy that turned this into a referendum on honesty. People who wanted to believe the Fever were stringing everyone along can find evidence that fits. People who wanted to believe the staff were protecting their star can find evidence that fits. Both camps quote, crop, and clip. That's not new. What is new is how quickly those clips harden into a shared story. It's why team accounts and beat reporters matter more than they've ever mattered. The public square is starving for chronologies, not catchphrases. Feed it. It will reward you. Second, the kindness that showed up the minute the decision became official. You saw it from players who've lived this exact loneliness. From a 4-time champion who told her the comeback would be major. From rivals who reminded everyone that a sport is just a stage for 100 small human moments that no camera can contain. I don't pretend that washes away the frustration, but it balances the feed. If you can hold those 2 truths at once, anger at the process, empathy for the person, you're the kind of fan every league needs. New York Post. So we end where we should, with what's next and with what matters. Caitlin Clark's body will heal because bodies are built to fix themselves when you give them time and help. The Fever will play on because that's what teams do when the script goes sideways. Stephanie White will say less than people want and more than the situation allows, because all coaches do in moments like this. Amber Cox will keep the long game on the board, because that's the job. And the fans who feel burned will either come back because they love the game, or they won't. And that's on the league to earn, not assume. If you need a clean sentence to carry out of this, take this one. Clarity beats mystery. Every time. Calendars beat catchphrases. And the fastest way to earn trust is to risk a bad headline with an honest update. Your turn. Should the Fever have closed the door earlier, or did they owe it to the player to leave it open until the last check-in? What injury report system would you build tomorrow to keep the next timeline from turning into a guessing game? Drop 2 concrete ideas below, and I'll feature the best fixes in the next upload, so this conversation leads somewhere better than just told you so. If you stuck with me this far, you're my kind of sports fan. Curious, sharp, and allergic to Shatik spin. Like, subscribe, and ring the bell so you don't miss the follow-up when the Fever either steal a spot with grit or head into the off-season with a blueprint you'll want to see. Either way, there's a story worth your time. And when Clark walks back onto a court next year at full speed, full voice, full voltage, don't be surprised if the first thing the building feels is not just the sound, but the quiet that follows it. The kind that says, the long way around was the only way through.